Business Finance Chapter 15 examples. In Chapter 15, we talk about companies selling shares of stock and the cost of putting shares out on the market for the first time and then also for the second time. So we have the two companies and we have both of their IPOs are coming out. One of them is undervalued, the other is overvalued, but we don't know which one is which. We plan on buying 1,000 shares of each issue. If an underpriced, it will be rationed and only half of our order will be filled. If you could get 1,000 shares in Kopka and 1,000 shares in Johnson, what would your profit be? And what profit do you actually expect? And then what principle have we illustrated from the chapter? So let's do some examples first. So if we receive 1,000 shares of each, our profit is the number of shares times the undervalued IPO minus the number of shares times overvalued IPO. So equals number of shares, so 1,000 times the undervalued minus the number of shares times the overvalued. So our profit, if we receive 1,000 of each, is 6,750. Okay. If we only get so however many shares, so remember if we only get half of the order, we're only going to get 500 shares. So then our profit is 500 times the undervalued amount, because we'll only get 500 of the undervalued shares, they'll be rationed, times 1,000 times the overvalued IPO. Okay, then our profit is only $625. So the principle that this illustrates is called the winner's curse, meaning that it's easier to win the overvalued shares because if people realize they're overvalued, less people will bid on them. Where if people know that they're undervalued, more people will bid on them. So often the undervalued shares get rationed and you don't get all of your shares, where the overvalued shares, you would get all of them. So it's called the winner's curse is the principle. In this example, we want to know how much the proceeds from the sale of stock is and how many shares we need to sell. So we have a company that's getting ready to offer an IPO. They need to raise $78 million to finance their expansion. They're selling new shares of equity and it's a general cash offering. So remember the differences between the type of cash offerings. So this one is a general cash offering, just out on the market. The offer price is $31 per share, and the company underwriters charge a spread of 7%. So that's like their commission that we have to pay as part of a fee. So how much do we need to sell in order to get both the 78 million that we need and pay that 7% spread? So the amount of funds needed or that we need to sell are the funds needed divided by 1 minus the spread. So we need the proceeds from the sale to be $83,870,968. So the number of shares we need to sell is the amount we need from the proceeds divided by our offer price of $31 per share. So we need to sell at minimum to get both of our proceeds and the amount that we have to pay the underwriters for a fee. We need to sell at minimum 2,705,515 shares of in this example, we're looking at the previous example, except now we also have an SEC filing fee associated with the offering. So we need to increase how much we need to sell and the number of shares we need to sell to make sure that we cover those associated administrative expenses with the SEC filing. So the proceeds we need from the sale are the funds needed plus our additional expenses divided by 1 minus the spread. So we need proceeds of $85,403,226. So the number of shares we need to sell equal the proceeds we need divided by the offer price of our shares. So we need to sell 2,754,943 shares of stock. And those are the examples from chapter 15.